this video. Today we're going to be going over Aaron Rodgers on the Jets. He just officially announced on the McAfee show that he is going to be going there. The trade has not officially happened yet, but it's all but done. So we will be going over the fantasy impact on both the Packers and the Jets with this trade. Before we actually get into that though, just make sure you drop a like on the video. It helps out a ton. And also subscribe if you want more fantasy football content this offseason to get everybody ready. All right, now, like I said, Aaron Rodgers just officially said that he wants to be a New York Jet. With that, obviously, he will no longer be the quarterback for the Packers anymore. Jordan Love will now be the future, and he will get his opportunity this year. So we're going to go over that first. It's really hard to say what type of fantasy value Jordan Love will have this year. Will obviously get the opportunity. So if you're in a 2-quarterback league, then there's definitely going to be a chance that you're going to be using him. If you're in a 1-quarterback league, I don't think he'll have any value this entire year, unless he just really shocks everybody. But from what we've seen, it just doesn't seem like he's going to be a top 10, top 12 quarterback, at least not this year. I do think he will be in contention for somewhere in that 15 to 20 quarterback range. So in 2-quarterback leagues, he will definitely have value. What that value will actually be is really hard to tell. Luckily, he does have some decent pieces around him. You got Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. They've leaned on both of them heavily the past couple years, and I just assume that's going to continue to happen. Aaron Jones is starting to get a little bit older, so I don't know how much more value he'll have beyond this year, but I do think he'll at least RB2 this upcoming year. AJ Dillon might be a little bit lower, but there's also a possibility that they want to integrate him more since he's going to be the future of the backfield there. He also has young weapons that should be really good, like Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs. And the Packers have always been a really good organization that is able to build the pieces around them pretty well, so he's going to have a fair shot and a fair opportunity to really prove what he can do. Again, I just don't know how valuable that'll actually be for fantasy. It's just really hard to tell given how limited we've actually seen him play on the field. The very last game that he did play as a starter this past year, he definitely showed to be a lot better than we had ever seen. So hopefully that can continue and he can continue to be productive. But at this point, I'm just not really betting on it. But like I said, I think Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon probably kind of just maintain their value. I don't think it really hurts them or helps them out too much. If anything, probably just hurts them a little bit, just given the fact that the offense probably won't be as good as it has been. I think probably the biggest loser on the Packers side is going to be Christian Watson. Just obviously losing someone like Aaron Rodgers as a young wide receiver is not going to be beneficial for you. He is an athletic freak who is able to take a slant route to the house, so there's still going to be fantasy valuable there on like the big plays. But even with Aaron Rodgers last year, when he was really balling out, it was coming on like 4 or 5 receptions a game. It was all touchdowns. So I think that's going to be really the case for him this year. It's going to be a very boomer bust player in my opinion. I had him kind of right around that like wide receiver 20, 18 range. I think I'm probably going to have to drop him down to that fringe wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 area. As the offseason progresses and we see how other places shake out, I think we can have a better idea of where to put him because he's still very young, going to be getting a lot better. And he's shown to have that athletic ability where he can take any catch that he makes to the house or can burn any single cornerback in the league. So there will definitely still be fantasy value there, but I just don't think he'll be who he was at the end of last year. So overall, I'm going to say Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon, neutral. Jordan Love, obviously up. Christian Watson, got to go down. Moving on to the Jets, let's actually talk about Aaron Rodgers now. Obviously, this is a massive upgrade from pretty much anyone the Jets have ever had. Even if Aaron Rodgers is going to be 40 years old and on the very back end of his career, I still think he's going to be good enough to be very productive in this offense. I don't know how fantasy productive it will be. Like, he's not going to be a quarterback 1. Let's get that out of the way. He's not going to go back to that level. I mean, could definitely be wrong about that. I just don't see that happening. He doesn't run the ball enough. This is also a very efficient offense where he can get a lot done without being very like statistically productive. And if he's not running the ball and not putting up massive passing yard numbers, it's just very unlikely that he's going to be able to be like a top 10, top 12 quarterback this year. But I do think he'll fall right around to the like 15 range. So as a streaming quarterback or as your quarterback 2 could definitely be useful for people. I think the main beneficiaries here are going to be the skill positions on this team. Now, obviously they did just sign Allen Lazard, and I think he'll be a nice piece for the offense to be better, but I don't think he'll be very fantasy relevant this year. I think it'll probably be the same situation with Elijah Moore. I think he will be a lot better and he'll have weeks, but it's going to be hard to trust him on like a week-to-week basis. I think it's a similar case for Elijah Moore here. He's going to be productive on some weeks, but it's going to be pretty hard to tell when that is. So I just don't think you can trust him on a week-to-week basis, but he will be a valuable part of his offense. I think the 2 main winners are definitely going to be Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall. Garrett Wilson, we saw last year, already arguably one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, like definitely at least a top 20. I already had him ranked as my wide receiver 13 in fantasy football going in to this offseason before Aaron Rodgers got traded here. I haven't exactly figured out where he's going to go, but I think he's going to be somewhere around that wide receiver like 8 range. There are just some guys you can't put him over, obviously, but I think the people like Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jalen Waddle, T. Higgins, everyone there is going to be in the same conversation with Garrett Wilson. And if you want to take Garrett Wilson ahead of all of those guys, I cannot blame you for that at all. Now, I still don't think he's going to be a top 5 wide receiver, but just given his talent and having a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, it can just make all the difference for him to be a solidified top 10 wide receiver. And if you've heard me in any of my other videos, you know that I will talk about these middling quarterbacks going to new teams like Derek Carr, like Jimmy Garoppolo, and how it won't really change the fantasy value of the skill positions around those guys. But Aaron Rodgers signing is not the same thing as Derek Carr and Jimmy Garoppolo signing. This is an elite quarterback getting weapons who are already very good. Even if Aaron Rodgers isn't as elite as he used to be, he's still one of the best quarterbacks actually playing football in the NFL. Like I said, I don't know how productive he will be from a statistical standpoint and from a fantasy standpoint, but just given his talent and his ability to see the field and having someone like Garrett Wilson who are just going to be open all the time, he's going to find him and he's going to make Garrett Wilson more valuable than he would have been with pretty much any other quarterback that was possible this year. So I do think that this is the best case scenario for Garrett Wilson this year, and I think that he's going to be an absolute stud going forward. The other guy I mentioned was Breece Hall. Breece Hall, as long as he can get back healthy, he's just going to be an absolute monster. We saw last year that he was one of the best running backs in the NFL in the first half of his rookie year, and then he tore his ACL, unfortunately. There has been some optimism, though, about him being ready for the start of the season. If that's the case, then he has an argument as like a top 5, top 8 running back. I still definitely have my reservations about him being ready, and even if he is ready, I don't imagine he'll be 100% to start the season. But just given the way that he was utilizing this offense and how much better it is going to be, I just don't see any way if he's playing, he's not going to be at least a top 10 running back. And if he's healthy, I think he's almost a solidified top 5 running back. I don't think he's going to be fully healthy. Before this trade, I had him ranked around my running back 13, 14, and now I've moved them up to that kind of top 10 range. I will have to kind of see a little bit more of other places, how they shake out. Now with Ezekiel Elliott gone, Tony Pollard also moves up a lot. So I think Breece Hall at like the running back 8, running back 9 is going to be a great spot for him. And if you can get him there, that's just fantastic. I do imagine that this will probably push him up even higher and he'll be drafted more around that running back 5 or 6 range. But regardless, I think he's going to be a stud if he can stay healthy. I think those are mostly the main impacts that this trade is going to have on the fantasy football landscape. There's obviously some other people that I briefly mentioned, like Elijah Moore, like Allen Lazard, maybe even CJ Uzomah, who could have some value in this offense, but it's going to be pretty hard to predict that going into the season. Definitely some later guys you could take shots on, just given that they're a part of this offense, and especially someone like Allen Lazard, who has the rapport already with Aaron Rodgers, and Elijah Moore, we've seen the talent on the field. You can definitely take your shot with them, but I wouldn't be trying to build my team around them as like a main piece, just given that we don't really know what's going to happen. Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, though, they're going to be bona fide studs, I think, going forward. I think those are my main thoughts on this trade. Just wanted to get my initial reaction out there. I know we've all been waiting on it for a while, and although it hasn't happened yet, he did say that he officially wants to go to the Jets, so I think it's just a matter of time until that happens, so getting this out here. If there's anything else I didn't mention, just please let me know down in the comments, and I will be able to respond to you. Overall, I think this is just a great trade for fantasy. It really makes I love Garrett Wilson. I have Breece Hall in some dynasty teams, so I'm pretty stoked about this. Yeah, so let me know how y'all feel about this trade, and I'll see you guys in the next free agent destination or signing or trade or whatever happens. All right, later.